Hello wild vibers, Vibes of a Wildlife here. Welcome to another video where we dive into the heart, humor, and unexpected life lessons from the animal kingdom. Why do we believe in unicorns when we've never actually seen one? I mean really, no fossils, no confirmed sightings, no blurry trail cam footage from a cryptic hunter in Oregon, and yet, unicorns show up everywhere, from medieval manuscripts in Europe to ancient scrolls in China. Royal crest, sacred texts, even street art today. That's a long run for something that technically doesn't exist. But here's the twist. Maybe unicorns did exist, just not in the way we pictured. Horn? Check. Mystery? Definitely. Magic? Well, that depends on how you define it. Today, we're tracing the real animals that inspired the unicorn myth, from shaggy prehistoric beasts to sleek desert survivors. And more importantly, we're digging into what those myths say about us, about how we choose to believe, about the things we cling to, even when we can't prove them, or maybe especially when we can't. Because sometimes the story we want to be true, that's more powerful than the facts alone. If this kind of wonder makes you pause, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. No horn required, just a little curiosity and a click. Let's go back to where the legend begins, not in fairy tales, but in ancient natural history. Let's rewind way back to a time when people weren't doodling unicorns on trapper keepers, but actually writing them down like real animals. Ancient naturalists, the original animal influencers, were out here documenting all kinds of creatures. Enthusiast, a Greek physician hanging out in Persia around 400 BC, described a wild beast in India. White body, purple head, blue eyes, and a single horn about 1.5 feet long. Sounds majestic, right? Also sounds like someone playing a mythical game of telephone. And it didn't stop there. Enter Marco Polo, merchant, adventurer, and full-time Silk Road storyteller. He was rolling through Asia in the late 1200s, chasing trade, culture, and a little clout while documenting his way through the Mongol Empire. Somewhere in his travels, he claims he saw unicorns, but his description, not exactly flattering. He called them ugly brutes with rough skin, tough attitudes, which, yeah, sounds a lot like a rhino who wasn't here for the hype. What's wild is, back then, unicorns weren't painted as magical, rainbow dancing dream horses. They were just rare, elusive, a little dangerous. Think more don't mess with it than petting zoo icon. But that one horn, it became the star of the show. A single spiral point turned into a symbol of purity, strength, and divine favor. Kings wanted it, churches claimed it, alchemists swore by it, and medieval markets, they were selling unicorn horns for more than gold, except plot twist. Those weren't unicorn horns. Most of them were narwhal tusks, shipped in from the Arctic and passed off as proof of magic to the people who never even heard of a whale with swords for faces. So if it wasn't magic, what exactly were people seeing? Alright, time to meet the real MVPs behind the unicorn myth. And spoiler, some of them didn't even live on land. First up, the narwhal. Picture a small Arctic whale with a spiral tusk shooting straight out of his face like nature's own fencing sword. That tusk is actually a tooth, a very extra, overachieving tooth. Narwhals swim the frigid waters of the Arctic, places like northern Canada, Greenland, and Russia. But to folks in medieval Europe who never seen the ocean, let alone a sea unicorn, that thing was the real deal. Traders brought those tusks from the icy north and sold them as unicorn horns. Royalty and church leaders shelled out fortunes for them. Why? Because when people want to believe in magic, facts suddenly become negotiable. Now let's bring it back to dry land with the Oryx, basically the supermodel of antelopes. Tall, sleek, desert dwelling, and rocking 2 razor-straight horns. You'll find them in North Africa and the Arabian Peninsula, just vibing in the heat. But here's the trick. Seen from the side, those horns line up so perfectly, it looks like just one. And when you throw in heat waves, mirages, and the shimmering glow of the desert sunrise, boom, you've got yourself a full-blown unicorn sighting. No Photoshop required. And then, just when you think it's all illusion and mistaken identity, along comes the Elasmotherium. This wasn't some dainty myth. This was a prehistoric beast, an enormous, hairy, one-horned rhinoceros that once thundered across the open grasslands of Eurasia. Think modern-day Russia and Kazakhstan. Fossils suggest it had a horn so big it could make a narwhal jealous. And get this, it actually fits the unicorn description almost too well. Huge, elusive, powerful, a living legend, just a few millennia too early for Instagram. So yeah, maybe unicorns did exist, just not as sparkly ponies with rainbow tails, more like woolly tanks with attitude. But here's where it gets interesting. The animals might be real, but the magic, that comes from us. Here's the thing, people didn't need to see a unicorn to believe in one, and honestly, they didn't really care if they ever did. The idea of the unicorn was just too good to let go. A rare, powerful, noble creature that only shows itself to the pure of heart, that hits different, especially in a world full of war, plagues, and muddy roads. So instead of proof, people leaned on stories, art, religion, and no one leaned harder than medieval Europe. The church, royalty, even scholars, they all doubled down. Unicorns were woven into tapestries, painted into Bible scenes, and tucked into bestiaries like divine fact. The unicorn wasn't just believed, it was institutionalized. And it was around this time, medieval Europe, especially during the 12th and 13th centuries, when the idea of the unicorn having magical properties really took hold. Clerics and theologians started writing about the unicorn as a symbol of Christ. They said its horn could purify poisoned water, that it bowed only to virgins, that it wasn't just rare, it was sacred, powerful, otherworldly, and just like that, belief leveled up into legend. That's the power of story oversight. We believe what moves us, what gives us meaning, and sometimes what helps us sleep better at night. Now let's talk belief bias, because we've all got it. That little voice in your head that says, I'll believe it when I see it, but then turns around and makes exceptions for the things that feel right. You want to believe in unicorns? Suddenly, that rhino looks noble. That tusk, definitely sacred. And if the myth lines up with what you hope the world is, pure, magical, full of hidden meaning, you're not just in, you're invested. But here's the kicker. The animals that likely sparked the unicorn legend, they were very real. Oryx in the Middle East, narwhals from the Arctic, rhinos across Africa and Asia, even the Elasmotherium, a massive ice age beast that looked like a woolly rhino with a unicorn complex. The biology wasn't fake. The magic, that was us. We added that part. Because deep down, we don't crave facts, we crave wonder. So maybe it's not about whether unicorns are real, but whether our belief in them tells us something real about ourselves. So here's where we land. Narwhals, oryx, rhinos. Yeah, they all had a hand or a horn in shaping the unicorn myth. Turns out, the truth was never hiding. It just had a few more wrinkles, a bit more grit, and maybe a little less glitter. But here's the unexpected part. Sometimes we believe not because it's proven, but because we need to. The unicorn is not just a fantasy, it's a mirror. It reflects our deepest cravings for wonder, hope, and something just out of reach that makes life feel a little more magical. And if that made you see unicorns, or yourself, a little differently, go ahead and hit that like button. Share it with someone who still believes in a little magic, and subscribe for more unexpected life lessons from the animal kingdom. Because sometimes, even the most mythical creatures have very real roots. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious, stay wild, and don't let anyone dull your sparkle, horn or no horn.